Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to dive into the fascinating world of neuroscience and learning. If you have ever wondered how your brain processes new information and how you can improve your focus and memory, this video is for you. Whether you are an educator looking to boost student engagement or someone eager to learn more efficiently, I'll be sharing with you some science-backed strategies that will make it happen. Stick around to unlock the secrets of your brain and learn smarter, not harder. Let's start with neuroscience. In simple terms, it's the study of the brain and the nervous system. It examines how our neurons, our brain cells, communicate and how these connections shape the way we think, the way we feel, and most importantly, our ability to learn. And why is it important? Because understanding how our brain works can help us optimize how we learn. So by applying some simple neuroscience principles, we can significantly improve our ability to learn and retain information and always mastering new skills. And why is it important? Because understanding how your brain works can help you optimize how you learn. By applying some simple neuroscientific principles, you can significantly improve your ability to retain information and master new skills. Now let's talk about neuroeducation. This exciting field combines education with neuroscience to see how we can have more efficient teaching methods. It's about using scientific insights from the brain to make learning more efficient. Imagine being able to tailor your learning methods to how the brain naturally processes information. From breaking complex topics into digestible pieces to creating more interactive learning environments, neuroeducation provides a roadmap for smarter learning and smarter teaching. Now let's dive into one of the most fascinating topics of neuroscience, in my opinion, and it's neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the ability of our brain to make new connections of the brain cells, the neurons that we've spoken about earlier. We can always make new connections or transform and reinforce existing connections in the brain cells. That means that our ability to learn is lifelong. We can always restructure our learning, reinforce some learning we've already done in the past, and make new pathways to create new opportunities to learn more efficiently and to bring this learning to our long-term memory. Let's say you are learning to play the piano. At first, it will be extremely difficult because your brain is not really used to the new complex movements that you have to do when you're playing the piano, all the movements that are required. But as time goes by and you continue practicing, it will become easier. And this is because your brain starts forming new neural connections, and over time, playing becomes easier because these connections strengthen and become more efficient. And why neuroplasticity matters for learning? Because it shows us that there is no age to learn. It's the ability of our brain to recover. For example, when someone has a stroke, the brain cells can recover over time and form new neural pathways and transform the brain, and that's the process of recovery. Neuroplasticity plays an important role in that recovery. And for learning purposes, it shows us that we can always create new pathways, new neural pathways to help us learn something new and bring this knowledge with us in the long term. It's important to boost neuroplasticity though, and there are ways that you can do that. I'll share with you some strategies to make it happen. For example, one of them is called spaced repetition. It's about reviewing information at increased intervals. So let's suppose you are working a new concept with your students, and at first they will say, yes, we understand everything is clear, thank you, teacher. Well, in fact, it may be, we sometimes feel that everything is clear to us when someone explains something. But then if you ask them again about this concept in a couple of days' time, for example, they may have forgotten some of the principles, some of the things that you've explained. And this is normal. This is totally normal. It happens to us all the time, Because we always count on our memory. We think that we are going to remember and that we'll be able to recover all that information when we need it. But actually, as time goes by, we start forgetting that information that we came across previously. This is normally because at first, when we start learning something or we get in touch with information, that information comes and stays in the short-term memory. But what we want to do is to embed it into the long-term memory. That's where real knowledge really takes place, okay? So that you're able to recover that knowledge later on in the future when you need it. And this is why spaced repetition is important. It plays an important role in bringing that knowledge into the long-term memory. So, in case you have worked a new concept with your students and then you want them to remember it later on, so you can use the technique of going back to that subject matter later on, let's say in 2 weeks' time, 1 month's time, later on in the year, because if that's an important concept, you have to give them opportunities to review that information, to work with that information again, to make sure that those neural connections are made stronger, right? And this is where neuroplasticity takes place, okay? So spaced repetition is an interesting technique for you to use with your students. Another important technique is diversified settings. It's always important to change something, be it in the way we teach by using different teaching methods, using different technologies, even when you want to use same or similar techniques, but if you can change the technology or change the setting, even the classroom. For example, if you normally have your students seated side by side, you can perhaps propose them to sit like in a circle way, or you can bring them to the garden to learn outside if it's possible. If you change the setting, that really challenges the brain because it's out of the usual, it's out of our comfort zone, let's say, and challenges are good for the brain because it helps you bring your attention, your focus to what you're doing. So it increases your preparedness to learn, right? So this diversified setting can also take place when you change the teaching method. You're normally used to teach your students with a specific method, then you can try something different. There are so many teaching methods nowadays that you can choose to help your students, to facilitate your class, be it in a face-to-face environment or digital online class, right? So think of changing the environment or changing your teaching method when you are working with your students, because this is going to be an interesting challenge for them and it will help them learn better. Another powerful technique is mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness is that state of mind that makes you pay attention to the present, that puts you in the present. So you are fully aware of where you are, what you are supposed to be doing, how you are feeling, whether you have thoughts, whether you have any pains in your body. It brings you to the present moment. And this makes you more prepared to learn. It puts your mind in a ready state to learn, right? And to form new connections that will last longer. So if you use some mindfulness techniques with your students, this is great to do, for example, at the beginning of the class. I normally do that whenever I have a class, a lesson that I would like the students to really pay attention to the new concept, etc. I always try and run a short mindfulness activity or exercise, 3 minutes, you don't need more than that, just to make sure they are brought to that particular time, to that particular moment, and that they clear up their brain in order to focus on what we are supposed to be doing. Try that. And in case you don't know much about mindfulness, I'll leave a link to a book in the description of this video. And this book hopefully will be able to help you understand what mindfulness is about, and it presents also different techniques that you can use with your students and can even use yourself to improve your learning experience. And another technique, believe it or not, is sleep. Healthy sleep patterns are essential to learning. Why? Because this is when our brain reorganizes itself, reorganizes all the information that we've acquired during the day, reorganize our memories, reinforce neural connections and make new ones. So sleep is actually very important for learning. So try really and have a good night's sleep and then you'll see that when you sleep well, I'm sure you know that, you have been through this, you have much more energy and some tasks are much easier to be carried out, right? So think about sleeping better. Also, something that is very important is to exercise. Exercise is good for a number of things, but also for learning. Why? Because when we exercise, we liberate at a chemical level some proteins that will also be beneficial to our brain cells, to our neurons. They will help them develop better and to form stronger connections. So all of these are essential to memory and also for us to bring that information to the long-term memory. And now let's talk about some teaching methods that are actually based on some neuroscientific principles, right? For example, project-based learning. It is fantastic because it's a way of working with your students, using real activities, thinking of the real world, and asking the students to engage in activities, learn by doing. They'll be interacting with situations that can actually be happening in the real world, and it's much more meaningful to them when they are working with activities that they can actually relate to than if they're just working with principles that are really far from their understanding, right? So project-based learning is fantastic because it taps into these principles of challenging our brain, of needing our full attention, and all of those things make learning more meaningful, right? Another technique is gamification. You may be familiar with that already. It's when you use games or strategic games that rely on strategy for learning purposes. It's fantastic because students have fun, they get really motivated engagement. You can even promote some sort of competition between them and give them some prizes, and they normally love it. And learning through games is not only fun, but it's really also a good way to strengthen those neural pathways and to challenge our brain to make learning more meaningful and long-lasting. So if you liked this video, hit the subscribe button and ring that bell so that you know of upcoming videos about science and learning. See you next time.